Hello everyone! Today we're going to be taking a look at some advanced concepts in Hearts of Iron 4. We're assuming a few things here, that you have already either watched the beginner's guide and want to level up further, or you are a bit of a Hoi 4 veteran at this point. Either way, welcome. If you're wanting to upgrade your Hoi 4 game with the different DLCs but aren't sure exactly what is included in each one, we'll be going over that as well. By the end of this video, you'll be well versed in all the features from the major expansions, including Man the Guns, La Resistance, No Step Back, By Blood Alone, Arms Against Tyranny, Götterdämmerung, and last but not least, No Compromise, No Surrender. If you've never seen me before, I'm Hatless Spider, and I do all kinds of zany off-the-wall strategies in Hoi 4. I like to think that I've mastered pretty much any and all advanced concepts, and yet my comment section humbles me pretty much every time I post a video, despite all my hours and work at breaking Paradox's game. Speaking of comment sections, if you enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a comment down below, like, and subscribe to the Hearts of Iron channel here. Man the Guns. Let's start with almost everyone's least favorite and get it over with. Why least favorite? Well, due to our communal lack of any understanding of Navy. My knowledge is generally relegated to pirating on the high seas. Yarr! Defeating my enemies and using their ships in a blob to gain naval supremacy. But let's hope to gain some knowledge here together. First, let's go over what this DLC changed mechanics-wise. Man the Guns brought the Naval Designer, full customization of ships from destroyers to battleships and carriers, including hulls, weapons, engines, and modules. We also gained the ability to give our admirals traits, making super admirals specifically honed for submarine warfare or to lead a mighty battle group a possibility. We also gained new research to unlock new ship modules, aircraft for carriers, and advanced naval technologies. We would also see elective governments now have elections, and democracies gained the ability to host governments in exile, giving an opportunity for the defeated nation to still contribute to the overall war effort. New mechanics for planning and executing large-scale landings with coordination. And naval treaties. Nations gained the ability to implement ship naval limitations that influence ship design and diplomacy. Somewhat famously, this has been used by speedrunners before to quickly defeat Great Britain by refusing their fleet limitation demands. We also got some new techs, amphibious tanks, as well as other amphibious vehicles such as Amtracs, and naval mines, and the ability to have de facto control of the sea routes your ships will pass through. Let's start with my personal favorite addition this DLC gave us, and one that is very underutilized: governments in exile. Everyone seems to hate democracies or think they are useless when you realize just how much extra manpower and factories this mechanic can give when properly utilized. Maybe you will change your mind. There may have been some times in the past when I have purposefully allowed allies to get capped, but I'm reformed now. I would never do something so evil. The exiled government mechanic can also be crazy useful if you're the nation getting capped, especially for those nations that got extra features they can do when capped to get extra manpower, factories, etc. Poland's path when capped in particular is crazy fun. You might have a hard time doing much to help your host nation if you don't have any bonuses, however, but there could be times where your host or another ally could even reconquer your lands to resurrect you from the dead, making that a useful lifeline. But that relies on your allied AI being competent, so your results may vary. If you are the exiled nation, you want to be constantly clicking the lobby for support button until you can get all the way to 100. This is going to give you some different bonuses based on how much you have of legitimacy. As the host, if your exiled government has greater than 40 legitimacy, you can do an extraction campaign. This gives 50% extra manpower from your exiled government. As you see here, we're currently getting 30 manpower daily. If we click the button, it's going to move up. The more core population your exiled government had before capping, the greater the amount of manpower you can receive. India and China, for instance, can go crazy. You can use this exiled government manpower to equip new divisions using them, and can even deploy these units directly in your own nation. If you have more than 80 legitimacy, you can actually request the navy of the exiled government for 25 PP. While they may not accept every time, this is a relatively unknown way to grow your fleet and unlock some new options of invasion. Next, let's take a look at the Naval Designer. To access it, open up the production menu to view your current ship designs. Every design needs to have at least something in the battery slot and an engine at a minimum, with your capital ships also needing a fire control system. While you can make ships with the bare minimum like this, you may want to make something that is purpose-built for efficacy rather than simply making the cheapest design possible. I say this while fully recognizing my hypocrisy, as I usually make the cheapest designs possible, only good enough to give me a brief moment of naval supremacy. But the times, they are a-changing, and with no compromise, no surrender, Paradox is going to be forcing my hand and yours to where we all soon may be making more purpose-built ships. More on how naval supremacy has been changed with the new DLC later. Now, there have been many metas in the past, whether spamming out light cruisers with huge amounts of light attacks stacked, or subs with the absolute best snorkels possible for ultimate stealth, or even the biggest and heaviest armored battleships to soak the damage while dishing it back. But you have the opportunity to do whatever you like here based on your nation's capabilities. Not only are you typically limited based on your nation's ability to create more dockyards, but there are also a couple of provisos or quid pro quos to building your ships. You can't put depth charges on a battleship, nor can you place the biggest gun batteries on a tiny destroyer or a submarine. A cruiser allows you to choose if you want a light or heavy cruiser, depending on the type of gun battery, but you can't mix different types on the same ship. Each ship has their role. The designer simply allows you more freedom in tailoring them to your specific needs. Now let's go over some of the modules that we can unlock through research for our ships. Click on the Naval Support tab. Similar to tanks, ships have different things they can focus on depending on what type of damage they want to inflict. Light guns are typically for damaging the smaller ships such as destroyers and light cruisers, whereas heavy batteries are designed to inflict the most damage on enemy capital ships like carriers, battleships, and heavy cruisers. Then in the center we have the dual purpose guns, which can give a light attack boost as well as giving the ability to shoot down those pesky bombers harassing your fleets. Then down here we can find the torpedo tech. These can be incredibly devastating to enemy capital ships, but when a fleet is properly screened with destroyers and light cruisers, they're far less likely to be able to hit the large and juicy targets that they so desire to sink. Similar to guns and artillery, there are techs interspersed throughout here that will give a bonus to attack that these different batteries can provide, further boosting your ship's abilities to dish out damage. Speaking of modifiers, further down we will find more ways to give our existing ships boosts. Damage control does, you guessed it, controls how much damage we take from critical hits, as well as the likelihood of a critical hit occurring to our ships in the first place. Fire control helps us to deal more damage of differing types based on ship designs. Transport ship research will improve our ability to conduct naval invasions, as well as improve our speed at preparing the invasions. Transport Tech 2, or Landing Craft, unlocks the ability to make a floating harbor. This is for those D-Day LARPers among us who want to have good supplies for their marooned troops until they are finally able to wrest control of a port. Mine warfare can help you increase the accident chance for enemy ships and really hamper their abilities to gain full control in a sea zone. They will also cause attackers to incur a naval invasion penalty, so if you're playing as anyone that wants to protect their coastline, consider mine laying. Fun fact, there's a late game tech here that actually will let you drop air mines into a sea zone. Kinda crazy. Now let's click on the Naval tab. If you aren't well versed in the different types of ships yet, make sure you take a look at the beginner's guide. This will be linked in the description. There are a few techs here as well that can make or break your fleet from bonuses you can apply. The first one I notice and yet often forget to grab is smoke generators. This can help save countless numbers of your convoys as they do their best to escape the clutches of enemy subs hunting them down, as well as potentially saving portions of your vital fleets when they come up against a fleet stronger than you anticipated. 20% faster retreat could easily mean capital ships saved to later be repaired to fight another day. Speaking of repairing ships, if you have any ships in need of repair, you always want to make sure you have some spare dockyards set to repair ships when needed. There are also techs here with the destroyer techs to gain the ability to add depth charges to our ships, and sonar to make finding the subs easier, especially useful if they are in deep water or have higher capability snorkels attached to reduce their visibility. Next is the ship armor. This will improve the ship's ability to take damage with more HP, as well as improve the armor value that can help ward off lighter attacks, potentially reducing the damage from light and medium batteries. This of course comes at the cost of more production costs, but also reduces the ship's speed. And finally, at the bottom we see the snorkels and diesel engines. These can both help to greatly reduce sub visibility. If the enemy can't spot your subs, you can wolfpack to your heart's delight and pick off enemy transports and even entire fleets with impunity. A raider's dream. Let's go over one more thing briefly. If we click on the terrain tab and hover over some different types of ocean terrain, we will see that there are different bonuses and malices to fleets. This can be vastly important, and for a true naval master, you will want to keep these in mind when operating your fleets. Deep oceans are going to reduce damage for your destroyers and light cruisers, while helping your subs to be less visible. Normal ocean helps reduce likelihood of hitting any mines. Shallow sea is going to be the worst area to operate your subs, unless you must or you're a masochist and enjoy losing them. They will be 100% more visible in these regions, making it likely for them to get caught, even if they have snorkels and other things to reduce visibility. And lastly, fjords and archipelagos are going to be the worst for the larger ships that will have a harder time maneuvering and dealing damage. But subs are going to love this region with many places to hide, reducing their visibility by a whopping 20%. While we're looking at the map, let's take a look at what missions our ships can do. You can clear mines from a region by building a ship with the minesweeping module and activating them on the appropriate mission. You can also effectively minesweep using your ships on missions where they will inevitably run into them and clear them in that way, although that could incur some casualties and repairs. Strike Force is generally used if you want ships in the dock until they know there's an active battle or a patrol spotted an enemy fleet that it thinks it could handle based on the level of aggression. Similarly, naval invasion support will keep the ships in dock until there is an active battle or naval invasion ongoing. If you have the right ships, these will also provide shore bombardment opportunities. Once there is something ongoing that the ships can support, the ships will leave dock to support either the battle or the naval invasion and will attempt to protect your vital convoys. Patrol is used to spot the enemy fleet and potentially engage. It also now provides control. More on this later. Convoy raiding is to hit the enemy's convoys and damage their trade, troop transport, or naval invasions, and convoy escort is for escorting our own trade ships or troop transport. The engagement rule you have applied is another incredibly important thing. You can set the fleet anywhere from never engage to always engage, no matter the enemy fleet composition. If you have engage at high risk on, you may be creating a David and Goliath scenario for yourself. But if you have more task forces that can join in, it could even out in the end, or even end up in your favor. Likewise, if you have engage at low risk on, you could still end up in over your head if more enemy fleets join in after the initial battle starts. You can always retreat from a battle, however, but it will take time for your fleet to fully disengage, and during this time, your ships could be getting heavily shelled. Another feature unlocked was the ability to control where supply lines pass through. If enemy mines, submarines, or other nuisances are affecting your naval supply lines, you can simply cut off the zone in the hopes that the nuisance won't follow. Simply select a sea zone, then in the bottom left of the info panel, you can choose between allowed or blocked, or if you want to still have the ability to pass through as a last resort, but attempt to find another path, then try avoid. Under this setting, no ships will pass through unless there is no other path available. In the infantry tab, we have two new technologies, the first and second level Amtraks, allowing us to add Amtrak battalions into our divisions. These are basically a worse version of normal mechs raw stats wise, but they more than make up for it in their attack bonuses to cross rivers and amphibious landings. Keep in mind that all of these will use Special Forces cap, so you can't make an infinite amount of these. If you want to add even more armor into your Marines, you can also research amphibious tanks. Finally, we have Admiral traits. Like with generals, you can use these to provide bonuses or buffs to your leaders which use particular types of ships more than others. You wouldn't necessarily want a Dernitz commanding capital ships, but in the end, you are the master and commander. Your admirals will gain experience for each earned trait from using those types of fleet composition, or from doing a task. Similar to generals, there are even terrain traits which your admirals will gain if they sail in certain types of sea zones more than others. La Resistance. If you enjoy intrigue and the ability to gain your nation's strategic advantages through things often overlooked, then La Resistance is right up your alley. This DLC gave us the ability to build and upgrade a spy agency, which allows all sorts of subterfuge, sneakiness, and gathering information to disrupt enemy plans. To create a spy agency, click on Create Agency, where you can choose from the unique name and icon which comes with most nations included in a DLC, or create your own. If you're like me and never click or type more than I must, then you will get the default. Luckily, in this case, it's not your spy agency name here, although I just changed it. Over the course of 30 days, 5 civilian factories will work away setting up your agency, after which you will be able to fully access the intelligence menu. You will be able to recruit a spy after another 30 days have passed. Like generals and admirals, whatever traits the spy has will help the spy perform better in certain missions or operations. Typically, the most useful skills to take are going to be things that will help them in not getting caught, as that is a constant risk when doing any active mission. Select your spy at the bottom of the screen to put them on a mission. Available missions will be highlighted. The main one you will use is Build an Intel Network, which not only gives you information on your enemy or potential enemies, but also when you reach certain thresholds, it will begin to give you the ability to perform different missions. Available missions will be highlighted, while unavailable missions will be somewhat grayed out, and will show you what you need in order to have the ability to do that mission. Similarly, depending on your intel network and agency upgrades, you can see how strong a country's economy, army, navy, or air force is. This will give you more ability to decide how to act against them. If they have double your factories and triple your deployed manpower, maybe think twice before attacking, unless you have very powerful friends. Each respective upgrade will use a certain number of civilian factories, taking 30 days. Keep in mind here that many nations can hire an elusive gentleman that would decrease the upgrade time by 15%, which with no other reductions would take the amount of days required down to 25 days. Some unique focus trees also can give more operatives or further reductions to the upgrade times. In the agency upgrades, the top row increases the intelligence you can access for each of the different branches. Civilian will better allow you to see their factories, manpower, and even help towards seeing what focuses they have done or are currently doing. Army will help to know their deployed manpower, as well as better seeing the types of units the enemy has deployed. Navy will help with the type and number of ships available for their use. And finally, Air Force, the type and number of planes they have deployed. With the passive defense upgrade, you can increase the counterintelligence of your own country, making it harder for others to gain intel on you. The Root Out Resistance mission can be upgraded with the anti-partisan upgrades. These can be particularly useful for when you are dealing with a rebellious people who don't understand the justness of your causes. When you suppress the resistance, this can often lead to less casualties and equipment losses, ultimately meaning more of both that can be sent to the front lines. So don't overlook that mission. These next two rows are going to increase the effectiveness of your spies on specific missions or operations, with a couple of exceptions. Invisible ink is going to be great as it increases the intelligence that you gain on your enemies from any spies gaining intel. Interrogation techniques may be one of the absolute best upgrades. If you could only get one upgrade, this would probably be the one I would recommend most, as if you happen to capture an enemy spy, this can be a massive boost for giving you attack or other bonuses if you are actively at war with that enemy. The next to go over is Death Chance Pills. Wanna buy some death sticks? This is also highly useful as it gives a small chance your spies might take the morbid way out rather than rotting in a prison for hundreds of days, wasting you the player's time and giving your intel to the enemy. When your spies get captured, you do gain the ability to launch an operation to try and save them, but this uses valuable and scarce resources and time, which is always a precious commodity in the game. Oh, and here's the kicker. When a spy is captured, it not only gives an intel bonus to the nation that captures them, but they may even be recruited by the enemy, giving them a strong new agent against you, with your country's nationality, adding insult to injury. Localized training centers allows you to recruit agents of specific nationalities in your region, which reduces their detection chance in those countries, and allows them to build an intel network faster. As mentioned earlier, things that help with detection chance reduction are hugely important, and this can be especially handy when targeting countries like the Soviet Union, which get massive buffs to their counterintelligence. You can recruit new operatives from any nation in your region to add them to your recruitment pool, and even expand your recruitment centers into other regions as well. The final row is where you can set up a cryptology department. Once set up, you can choose a nation that you wish to try to crack their code. Often, this is a good idea to do beforehand as you plan out your attacks. Since it often takes a long time to crack, good planning can yield you some nice bonuses when you spring the trap on them. While it does in general take a lot of time, you can reduce this with the radio interception group and the machine-assisted decryption upgrades. Keep in mind that machine-assisted decryption upgrades are locked until you have researched mechanical computing. Once you have cracked a cipher, it will give you passive bonuses to intel for the various branches, and you can activate this button here, which will give a slew of combat bonuses, active for 30 days, namely helping your ability to naval invade, as well as speeding up your planning and giving a 15% breakthrough bonus. After the 30 days is up, you will lose the passive bonus and the active bonus, and your cryptology on that nation will be reduced to 50%, requiring you to attempt to crack it again if you want the bonuses back. You can increase your own ability to resist a cracked cipher by completing the government cipher school and machine-assisted encryption upgrades. If your cipher has been broken and you complete a cipher upgrade, it will reset it, forcing the enemy to re-crack your codes. So it may be a good idea to spread out when you complete these throughout your game. After you complete the initial agency, you will start out with 1 spy slot, but you can unlock more by completing 5 agency upgrades, or by hiring an elusive gentleman or similar advisor, or even through the focus trees, or by becoming your faction's spy master. This last option will give you a number of spy slots, depending on how many of the nations in your alliance have increased their own spy intelligence agencies, as well as the size of these nations. There are many missions that a spy can complete. By default, newly recruited spies perform the counterintelligence mission immediately, increasing your defense against enemy spies. Probably the most useful mission is going to be creating the intel network, since this is going to give you intel on the other nations as well as allow you access to all the different operations. Another useful option for your spies is to quiet the intel network. This mission actually makes it impossible for the agent to get caught. This will effectively freeze the current level of the intel network, so you would typically want to freeze it at a higher level that would still give you the option to perform whatever operations you want to do. One of the most underrated and overlooked missions is to use your spies to boost your own ideology and propaganda to hurt the enemy's stability and war support. In conjunction, you can use this to perform a coup in the other nation if their stability is low enough and you have boosted your ideology to the required level. The higher your intel network percentage, the more effective your propaganda or boost ideology missions are going to be. To perform a coup in a major nation, they must be below 50% stability, and the ideology must be at least 20%. For a minor nation, they also need at least 20% ideology popularity, but only need to be below 70% stability. While I would say doing coups is underrated, there's also pretty good reason that it is. It represents a significant investment both in time, all the agents required, and in the amount of guns required to be shipped to the rebels. But it could potentially significantly weaken a nation that you are wanting to attack to sort of soften up the target. Don't completely rule it out as an option. You can assign a spy to control trade with a country, helping you sell off your excess resources. I often forget about this as an option, but especially if you are a smaller nation and aren't using your spy anyways, this could be a lucrative thing to help you build your nation up. Exert diplomatic pressure is in general to help gain non-aggression pacts with nations. When you have a spy on this mission, you will see a modifier increase that if you have other modifiers making them like you, or you improve relations with them, you very well may be able to achieve the desired non-aggression pact. This could potentially give you the time needed to build your army so that you can survive an incoming onslaught. Okay, so let's check out the operations that can be done. As alluded to earlier, these operations will be locked until you have built up an intel network. On top of the initial lockout from intel network strength, some operations unlock more operations, such as the blueprint stealing mission. which only unlocks after completing infiltration of their civilian, army, navy, or air force. This can be well worth it, netting you boosts for tech or even gaining a tech outright. Collaboration governments can be hugely helpful for getting a good amount of compliance instantaneously after conquering an enemy. Although these operations are expensive, it will pay massive dividends as you will have less resistance and more access to the conquered nation's factories, resources, and manpower. If you complete 3 collaboration government operations, this guarantees at least 90% compliance, which would allow you to create a collaboration government that will run the conquered nation for you. This collaboration is also going to net you 75% of both their civilian factories and mills. One nice thing with these operations is that if you are short of equipment, you can select the Commence When Ready button, and it will automatically fire after you've met the requirements. You can also have the operation set to repeat immediately, and this is likely something you will want to do for several operation types. Keep in mind, if you lose your network strength due to an operative getting caught or something like that, the operation will not be able to be repeated. Your intel network is not only needed for operations and missions, but it also confers certain combat bonuses depending on its strength per state. With an intel network in a frontline enemy state, you can damage the enemy's planning bonus, which can make defending a front far easier. Less esport stats for your enemies keeps far more of your troops alive, and your front line as solid as a rock. Conversely, it can also reduce the entrenchment, making it easier for your troops to push through the enemy front line, and cut it up into Swiss cheese with glorious encirclements. While I don't always remember to utilize all the array of bonuses that La Resistance made available, there are some hugely important bonuses and subterfuge that you shouldn't ignore if you want to be the very best Hoi 4 player. Maybe even the best there ever was. No Step Back. Tank Designer. Need I say more? I know all of you love tanks as much as me, right? This DLC allowed for customization of tanks and armored vehicles. That was certainly the main thrust of it, and it is easily one of my favorite DLCs because of that. The first tech that you research for tanks will unlock you 3 different chassis, although these are limited in how much reliability, speed, and armor these will have compared with what the further iterations will bring. But if you don't mind low armor, speed, and reliability, these have the benefit of at least being cheaper IC-wise, as well as in many cases resource-wise. The real glory of this DLC was to give options regarding your tanks. You can save on resources and IC in some places, and spend up in other areas to create your perfect design. Whereas before, with your tanks, you had fixed soft and hard attack, piercing. Now you could have varying levels of each based on what gun you add to your turret. So how do you unlock the guns you want to use on your tanks? Well, you'll find different techs interspersed between the AA, artillery, and anti-tank branches of the artillery research tree. Hover over some of these researches, and you'll get the details of exactly what they unlock. Let's take a look at one that unlocks one of my favorite tank guns. So the 1940 AA tech. You see here that this one unlocks a couple different tank guns for different types of tanks. The improved automatic cannon costs 0 resources, has an IC cost of 2 per tank, and has pretty solid overall stats. There are many other guns that will absolutely crush this one in soft attack, hard attack, and piercing. But this one is cheap, like really cheap. Stats per IC cost is super good, and it comes at the cost of 0 resources. Since I play a lot of minor nations with low industry, this one could be fun for making a budget tank that can still dish out solid damage. Let's go through and design ourselves a tank. First, we need to decide what sort of chassis we want. Light tanks are faster and cheaper, but come with less armor. Medium tanks are a good mix of speed and armor, and heavy tanks are built to have the largest armaments as well as the best armor. In this case, let's choose a light tank since that somewhat limits the things we can use. By default, you can add up to 4 ticks of armor and engine upgrades to your tank. When you add more than 4 ticks of armor to your tank, it's going to add another steel cost per tank, with another cost at 9 and so forth. Note that this has been changed to a fixed 2 steel with the newest DLC active, no matter how many ticks you do after 5. In this case, let's make ourselves a tank destroyer. Now for a tank destroyer, this gives bonuses to both the hard attack and piercing, so we will want to max those stats as much as possible to boost it further. In this case, I want to put the improved high velocity cannon on my tank. But wait, what's with this weird red X? This is due to it being a medium type of gun, but we can fix this. If we go into the turrets, we can see that we can switch to the light fixed superstructure. Fixed superstructures will allow you one level up as to what type of gun we can place in our tank. This can't be a normal light tank now. The only thing that it can be is a tank destroyer, so we need to hit the drop down and select tank destroyer. Check out how the stats just changed. Both heart attack and piercing went up significantly. Now that we've changed to a tank destroyer, let's check out some of the other modules. Radios are great for adding both defense and breakthrough to your tanks. Additional machine guns are good for a bit more soft attack. Armored skirts can help with breakthrough and armor, although note that you do need certain researches before these will be unlocked. Sloped armor will increase armor at a cost of more overall production cost. Squeeze bore adapter can get you some more piercing. Dozer blade can be unlocked from the engineer company too, and this will net you one extra entrenchment per brigade that you add to your division. And you can even unlock and add amphibious drives to your tank to turn your tank into a water toy, useful for amphibious landings or attacking over rivers. Personally, I'm a big fan of what you unlock when you get maintenance company 2, which is easy maintenance. This is going to reduce your overall tank's cost by 7.5%, as well as adding some reliability. And I'm sure you like free as much as me, right? Well, extra ammunition storage is exactly that. You get some stats at the cost of reliability. In this case, I want more piercing and more armor. So for that effort, we're going to add sloped armor, we're going to add armored skirts, and we're going to add squeeze bore adapter for more piercing. But what's this? We have one more upgrade that we can do. Well, I haven't talked about the secondary turrets. You get two options here. You can either do the heavy machine gun, which gives you soft attack for production costs, or you can go with the small cannon, which will get you some breakthrough, soft attack, hard attack, at the cost of some reliability. Let's add the small cannon since that adds both hard and soft attack, whereas the heavy machine gun only adds soft attack. And now let's deal with our engine ticks and armor. In this case, we want as much armor as possible and aren't too worried about having extra speed. So let's increase the ticks on the armor to the max and just ensure that we have the minimum 4 kilometers per hour speed. Let's check out the suspension types now. First, we can add a half-track style suspension, although we do have to have the mech research done. This one is going to reduce the hardness, reliability, but it will also reduce the overall production cost of our tank. Or we can choose wheeled suspension, where it reduces even more hardness, more reliability. It vastly decreases the production cost. Bogey is going to be the basic suspension with no stat changes. Or you can go with the Christie suspension, which is going to give you more max speed, interleaved, which is going to give you some extra breakthrough at an even greater production cost, or the torsion bar if you need some extra reliability. Since this tank is getting very pricey, let's go ahead and do wheeled suspension. Now keep in mind that wheeled and half-track suspension can only be done with the light tanks. Now let's check out the different types of armor. By default we have riveted, giving us a 20% discount. Welded and cast armor both give 30% more armor, but at a cost. Welded has no discount or increase, but costs an extra chromium, whereas cast actually will cost you 20% more overall. In this case, since we want more armor, but not at a huge cost increase, let's go with welded. And finally, we can check out the engine types. Default is the gasoline engine, which gives you some extra max speed. Diesel is good for more reliability. And then you have the petrol electric engine. This one can be useful for the defense and breakthrough boosts, but it has an extra initial IC cost of 2 versus 1, but also costing an extra 15% overall production cost to your tank, while also devastating the reliability of your tank. In this case, let's go ahead and stick with the gasoline engine. And now finally, let's save the design. Don't take this as a perfect purpose-built design, but hopefully it gives you a good picture on how you can change out components to get exactly what you want or need based on your situation. Let's take a look at the requirements with the different types of tanks. Light tanks will require 60 tanks per battalion, medium 50, and heavy 40. The special types are interesting as they require less even if they have a light or medium tank chassis. Self-propelled AA only require 36 per battalion, but with NCNS it has moved to 40. Self-propelled artillery also require 40, and tank destroyers 40. Self-propelled artillery will give extra soft attack while typically not providing much in the way of organization or HP. Tank destroyers will provide better piercing and hard attack as shown earlier. And enough about tanks for a little bit. On the supply side, there's now some new goodies. In the support tab, you can research armor trains, which not only are armored and therefore less vulnerable to bombing attacks on the infrastructure, but also have a chance to shoot down casts, which are attempting the dirty deed of ruining your supplies. Another addition was the ability to build and deploy railway guns. These can severely hurt the enemy's ability to damage your troops, making these highly useful. The base is 10% to both the enemy's attack and defense, and will apply whether they are attacking or defending. Now keep in mind that you do have to move them along railways. And when you hover over these, you get to see the nice range all around the railway gun. These railway guns unfortunately do not stack, so you do ideally want to have them spread out if you have multiple of them. Your cast can now do a new mission to attempt to disrupt the enemy's supply lines and damage critical infrastructure. This is with the logistics strike mission. This can hit their trains, trucks, as well as railways. Supply penalties can hurt the enemy's org and ability to have good attack and defense stats, so this can clearly be highly useful. The Officer Corps also had a new feature with this DLC called the Spirits of the Army, Navy, and Air Force. With a small amount of XP, you can choose between a variety of army spirits to do all kinds of things, giving you different bonuses based on what your situation is. The options available to you are going to change depending on which doctrine you have chosen. And there are even new options via the new DLC based on the doctrine, so it is still important to know which one you want. By Blood Alone. This one mainly dealt with a designer for planes, giving the player more tools to blast the enemy out of the sky with facts and logic. Just like with the other two designers, you must research the airframe and the various modules separately. For armaments, you could choose between light or heavy machine guns or even cannons. These all have different weights to them, which will be important as you cannot exceed the thrust ability that you have in your plane and still expect it to make it off the ground. Survivability studies allows you to add armor plates or self-sealing tanks, which will help to weather the enemy's hits on your plane. Aircraft construction unlocks dive brake modules, improving air defense and naval targeting, as well as lightweight materials, which reduces the aluminum cost and overall IC cost of your plane, while injuring your air defense stat, making it less survivable from enemy attacks. Range improvements helps you extend the distance of your aircraft either through disposable drop tanks or by adding extra fuel tanks. Definitely don't overlook range, as it can be a big factor in getting good efficiency over an air region, which could make or break you. Here you can get researched airdrop torpedoes for your naval bombers. For bombing, you can go with standard bombs or shoot for armor-piercing bombs, which can dual purpose for naval attack and close air support. Here we also have the different engine researches, which go from a single engine all the way up to 6 engines. You will get more thrust and speed the better the engine, so this is always a useful upgrade. Researching rocket techs will give access to rocket engines as well as jet engines, but keep in mind Götterdämmerung moved this into special projects territory. Here in the engineering tab, this is the main place to find all the new techs: air-to-air and ground radars, improved bomb sights, and radio navigation. In the artillery tree on the anti-tank side, we'll also find the anti-tank cannon tech. This is a powerful ground weapon that can do serious damage. On top of this, we can unlock the rocket rails through the rocket artillery tech. The more research you do as far as airframes, the more slots in those planes you will unlock. But keep in mind that, as mentioned earlier, most additions have weight to them, so you'll likely find you also want to keep researching new engines for greater speed and thrust. The bottom row of modules allows you to add defensive turrets to give your bombers or even fighters some extra air attack, extend your range with extra fuel, or add different types of bombing gear. The plane's type will be based on the primary armament module. Fighter armament in the main slot will be considered primarily a fighter, naval bomber armament, naval bomber, etc., etc. Creating a dual-purpose plane means you are mixing its abilities and thus diluting its overall capability for its primary missions. But then it may be able to better defend itself in the case that you don't have total air supremacy. Carrier airframes will be unlocked automatically as you research each level of the small airframes. If you are in need of more carrier planes for your ships, you'll need to ensure you select the carrier frame specifically when you are designing it. Okay, now on to the new peace deal mechanics. You now get the choice to create demilitarized zones in the peace deal under any puppeted or liberated countries. This can help to protect certain borders that you don't want to have to defend. Another option is to go full pirate and seize enemy ships, potentially creating a mighty fleet in the blink of an eye. Maybe not so mighty in this case. War reparations can be inflicted on the losing nation as well if you are puppeting them, giving you extra access to some of their civilian factories and a very nice boost. On top of this, we can also request control of the new puppets' resources, fueling our own industry and potentially giving us a civ boost as well when other nations then choose to buy those resources from us. If we simply want to hurt our new puppet or liberated nation, we can also dismantle their military industry, causing them to not be able to attack anytime soon. Another cool feature of this DLC, although I admittedly often forget to do this, is the ability to give out field citations to our field commanders. While these are generally not game-breaking bonuses, you can improve a variety of stats, including but not limited to reductions in supply usage, attack, defense, movement speed, and more. In this case, let's give our unit some extra breakthrough. Each time we do this, it will have a base PP cost, which increases for each further citation we give this same division. If we were to choose to give the same field citation twice, keep in mind that the bonus will be halved every further time you increase the same citation. Your unit will gain the ability to have a field citation given when it does something of note during a war. Typically, this involved taking certain victory points or cities. These bonuses, once given, are permanent, so you can end up with some very valuable divisions. For those who like to create a story narrative for their game, this can be wonderful for helping to follow certain elite divisions and watch how they can perform well over their non-field sided peers. You know who's going to inherit the earth? Arms dealers, because everyone else is too busy killing each other. Well, in this case, I say, why not both? Arms against tyranny. If you ever wanted the ability to buy or sell your own excess guns, tanks, planes, and whatever else shows up on the international market, you're in luck because this DLC brought that and more. On top of that, out with the old equipment designers and in with the new military industrial organizations, or MIOs. These allow you to customize your equipment, tanks, planes, and ships to give them slight bonuses each time you are able to upgrade. You can earn points to upgrade these the more you produce using an MIO, or you can gain points through using the MIO to research, granting you a research boost at the cost of some daily PP gain. Another addition was the unique doctrine trees specifically for special forces. First, let's take a look at the international market. When you open it up, you will see two sub-menus, one for buying and one for selling. Clicking these will allow you to sort by equipment type, giving you some ability to refine your search so that you don't have to filter through the whole list. Since it's 1936 and early on at that, not too many people are going to have extra equipment. Just like us, our rivals have the ability to sell at a decreased, normal, or inflated price, depending on how badly they want to get the product sold. To buy equipment, it will cost you economic capacity, which is either gained by selling your own equipment or filled by some of your own civilian factories for a set period of time. You do have the choice to vary how many civilian factories you want to dedicate to this, but this will potentially mean that you will end up receiving your purchase in multiple shipments rather than all at once. An equipment delivery takes 30 days, so if you want it all in a lump sum, make sure you dedicate enough factories. On top of this, if the shipment must come from overseas, you also need to ensure that you have enough convoys. If you have no convoys or too few, then you may want to look at nations selling on your continent to reduce the amount of shipments required. When you are purchasing equipment, keep in mind that you don't have to buy the entire stock, although the button to take all of it certainly makes that more convenient than typing in the exact amount you would like. You can assign a maximum of 15 civs per order. If it is very expensive equipment, your civs may need extra time working to pay the economic capacity required. Once you send the purchase request, the selling nation must accept it before it will start. Now let's try selling. When we open it, we'll see that we have the option to put our excess items on the market. I alluded to a price differential earlier, and that can be changed here. If you're desperate to sell, you can decrease the cost. If you're certain that it is a high demand item, you can try to see if someone will purchase it at the increased cost or simply select normal pricing. High is 25% more expensive. Low is 25% cheaper. Equipment will still have the same value in 1936 as it will in 1945, and while there is higher demand for certain equipment than others, there is no demand pricing that will fluctuate up or down. Let's sell some of our excess guns. Keep in mind that this equipment can no longer be used to equip units in the field or in the queue, as it is separated out once it's put on the market. You can sell equipment to any nation you have market access with. In the market access button here, you can see all of the nations that currently have market access with us. In the market options, you can turn on auto accept purchase request. I'd highly recommend doing this, as otherwise it becomes tedious to filter through potentially many buyers of your product to decide who to sell it to. When you assign the MIO, any production efficiency modifiers that it gives will automatically be applied to that production line. There are certain instances where you may want the production modifiers from one MIO, but like the bonuses that another MIO gives better. This creates an interesting situation, but you can effectively split it up to benefit from two different MIOs. Once you unlock a trait point, click on the notification to be able to add a point to your desired bonus in the MIO. One cool trick you can do is you can hold left shift and select multiple traits to queue them up for automatic assignment as you unlock more points. This will be done in the number order you create. While researching with MIOs will cost a small amount of political power, 0.1 per day, it will provide a 5 or 10% research boost, plus giving you valuable MIO points. Once your MIO has reached level 5, you unlock the policies, which allow you to spend 25 political power for further boosts to your MIO, such as greater research bonuses, increased funds gain, or even stat bonuses to our equipment. The next special edition of this DLC was the addition of Special Forces Doctrines. You access this at the bottom of the Officer Core, and it is broken up into 4 separate doctrines: Mountaineers, Marines, and Paratroopers. Plus another, but that's an addition we'll talk about later. Each doctrine requires Army, Navy, or Air XP, respectively. By default, each country can only choose one Special Forces doctrine to specialize. Once you choose the first doctrine of a branch, it will lock you out of the rest. You can unlock another Special Forces branch when you are at war and it is after 1940, and certain nations can unlock a third one through their national focus tree when you are at war and the date is after 1940. And certain nations can even unlock a third one through their national focus tree. Each doctrine unlocks a unique type of support company, which can be used on any of your divisions, not just your special forces, and are usually an upgrade on an existing support. For Mountaineers, these will unlock Rangers, which helps give terrain bonuses to your overall division and can also boost your artillery divisions. Marines unlock Pioneers, a variation on Engineers which specialize in providing huge combat bonuses to marshes, rivers, forts, and amphibious invasions. Paratroopers can unlock the Airborne Light Armor Support Company, allowing you to drop armored paratroopers as well as get some movement buffs while you disrupt your enemy's front lines. You'll have some tough decisions to make depending on which side you're going to choose. Will you give a boost to your overall Special Forces divisions? Or would you prefer to pick the left side, which might give a boost specifically for Mountaineers? Or maybe you'll want to try to use Marine Commandos. These can give the ability to allow hit and run tactics on an enemy coastline. Speaking from experience, this is such a nuisance to deal with. Götterdämmerung. For all those LARPers out there that enjoy nukes and other wonder waffles, this was a mixed bag. While you had many more options at your disposal, you might find that your favorite playthrough of Nuclear Tanu-Tuva was now significantly more difficult to achieve, as special projects now were going to be more involved and less accessible for minor nations. Special projects through experimental facilities would allow you to research a whole range of new and existing technologies, such as super heavy artillery, helicopters, nuclear weapons, and the absolutely devastating land cruiser tanks. Some existing techs moved to the special projects area, such as radar, jet engines, and flamethrowers. Many new techs were also added which gives support companies for your divisions such as armored engineers and motorized military police, and techs for the mighty land cruiser. While you may not have any experimental facilities as the mighty Tanutuva, you can construct new ones, and even multiple of the same, through the construction tab, but these are a significant investment. But that being said, you can also acquire them if you are able to defeat one of the major nations that has one. There we go. When building a new facility, you will need to be mindful of the supply in the areas you are wanting to place it in. You can also only have one facility per state. Once you have paradropped France and caused a quick white flag to be thrown up, then you will see a new tab available to you in the research area, and a notification at the top saying facility with unassigned scientist. Here you can see the type of facilities, how many available projects there are, and how many breakthrough points each facility type has. To research a project, you will need breakthrough points for the relevant type of facility, which is gained from the scientists assigned to the facilities when they are not researching projects. This is also influenced by the supply level to your factory as well as the experience level of your scientists. Good supply equals more breakthrough points. Let's recruit a scientist since we currently have none. We have only one available for our research type, which is a land warfare. But if we hire him, we'll open up new options. Now let's start a project. I want flamethrower tanks, but we currently have no breakthrough points. We only need one breakthrough point for this particular project, but some will require more, and different levels of research will be required as well. Make sure to check what is needed for exactly what you want to get. At long last, we have our first breakthrough point, and you can see that our scientists leveled up as well. Click to start, and let's click flamethrower tank. Approximate time 215 days. Let's go ahead and start it now. All right, so we have finished the flamethrower tank, and you can see that we had some iterations here. So these events will give you bonuses. As you can see here, this one gave us extra progress, 15%, as well as it even gave us some extra breakthrough towards our next point. This one gave us extra experience, and it progressed us by 24%. So you can see here that there's a lot of nice events that can happen while you are working on these projects. Each iteration during the research time will bring a reward, or it can even bring a failure of some kind. Luckily, this time we had no failures. Some iterations will also require you to make a decision on the direction of the project. For example, whether to focus on range or armaments for your cruiser submarines. When completed, some projects will show themselves in the research tabs with these cool looking borders, showing that they're now available for standard researching. Others will be automatically completed and available for use or production. Some of these projects can be absolutely insane, although many of them come with a huge amount of IC needed to be utilized in the field, or they come super late game after most of the fighting would in theory already be done. Definitely like the land cruisers. But if you can manage to utilize these well, they can be a huge boon to your ability to defeat your enemies with weaponry thought to be impossible. And here it is, the big bad, long-awaited China, Philippines, and Japan reworks. No compromise, no surrender. This DLC brought many changes along with it. Coal is now required to make sure that your civilian, military factories, as well as dockyards, are all performing at peak performance. If you don't have enough coal, you'll begin to suffer penalties to your production as well as your construction. You might find that once you reach a certain level of industrialization, you'll have a hard time keeping your myriad of factories at full capacity. This resource was meant as a cap to the ability to continue industrializing ad infinitum, although Paradox has recently added some extra researches that will assist in lessening the overall requirement of coal needed. On top of this, every nation now has a small baseline amount of energy, similar to how fuel works, so that minor nations can run a small amount of factories before requiring importation. There are also two new buildings here that you'll see. Reinforced electrical grid, which is going to reduce the energy requirement per infrastructure. And you'll also see the high capacity electrical grid. This is going to increase your resource gain per infrastructure, which can be absolutely massive. And finally, excavation techs will also each now give an extra 5% coal gain efficiency. The other way you can fix your coal deficit, other than importing the coal required, is to reduce your economy law. Civilian economy is now significantly more useful in the late game, as this will reduce your factory energy consumption by 30%. This will scale by the law, going all the way up to plus 50% on total mobilization. The other major update was new and improved doctrine trees that give more flexibility to the player's army, navy, and air forces. I won't go into too much detail here, as Machiavellian Strategist has produced a guide specifically for the different branches of new doctrine trees, so take a look at that here or in the description below. You'll find that navy is now also significantly different, with a huge change from naval supremacy into control of sea zones. This also brought with it a change in how naval invasions are completed, including more time required to prepare for the invasions. Gone are the days of the 7-day preparation, where you make many different landing zones. The way that you will now gain control of the sea zones is by utilizing the patrol mission. This will provide dominance in the sea zone. Strike Force will now provide a multiplicative to whatever ships are being used on patrol, increasing your overall dominance. Having naval dominance provides a couple of benefits. It will first and foremost provide a spotting bonus, organization recovery bonus, and a ship recovery chance. Having dominance can also be used to decrease convoy requirement from trade routes, reflecting their protected status while the sea lane is being patrolled. Another addition was the naval headquarters. These, when an admiral is assigned, will provide some nice bonuses depending on the skill of the admiral assigned. Here in England, you see that when I access it by either clicking on the officer corps or the naval HQ itself, we currently have Bruce Fraser assigned to one of our naval headquarters. He is going to provide a bonus in all of these regions shown. And as you can see, that's a big amount of territory. These can only be built in a naval base of 8 or higher. So you may need to build up a naval base in whatever region you want it in before you can do that. Additionally, if you wanted a naval supply base somewhere, this will have the same requirements of level 8 or higher naval base, but it can't be built on the same port as a naval HQ. These can be utilized to extend the range of task forces by allowing a refuel from their home base, effectively giving your fleets extra range, assuming it is built a distance away from whatever the home base is. Similarly to the naval invasion changes, you'll also find that paradrops also now have a preparation time required. No more jumping at the spur of a moment. It's going to be a minimum of 7 days. Alliances have also been completely reworked and can give some nice bonuses to members, but will take some time to properly shape them and may restrict more than previously until it has been properly molded into whatever shape you want it to be. Faction points or faction initiatives shown here in the top right corner are now used for many things. You can change faction rules to your own liking. Right away, it will show all of your current rules. If you want to see all the rules that you can possibly implement, click on the All Rules button. For one faction point, you can implement a new rule or take away existing rules that you don't like. Interestingly, you can also allow governments in exile, even if you are not a democratic faction. Faction goals can be used to gain more faction points, as well as potentially gain some other bonuses, such as XP, infrastructure, forts, anti-air, etc. When you complete your faction manifest, this will also grant you bonuses. In this case, you can see my Chinese United Front is giving political power gain, war support, and reducing the autonomy of puppets. You can add faction research after you complete a short-term goal, allowing sharing of facilities. Under faction military operations, you can request and contribute to the garrison manpower pool. To do this, the faction rule for one of the garrison requirements must be set. As you can see, there are now manpower contributions. We can also contribute our own, and we actually need to do that before we can even request any garrison support. And there we go. Now that we have contributed 6,000 ourselves, we can actually request some from our other nations. This is a significant change from before, where you could just simply request from your puppets. Doctrine sharing does exactly what it says. If a member has a higher mastery in a chosen subdoctrine, other members can benefit by also choosing that same subdoctrine with some mastery. And finally, with the release of this DLC, a long-standing bug has finally been removed. You will no longer receive planning from setting up a field marshal planning order and having your troops garrisoned in a random territory. But that being said, they did change something to sort of incorporate this Set up an offensive line for planning, and set these units. Rather than the base of flexible cohesion, you would go all the way to immobile. These divisions will never relocate. They will then gain planning still, as long as they're on the front line. Keep in mind though, this will be at a lower 50% rate of gain. Rangers have been added as the new special forces as well. These are very versatile and powerful units that are wonderful for attacking in many areas of the world. You can specialize them in forest or in jungle warfare. Although I'd reckon in most cases, forest will be the superior choice. And finally, there are some new special projects. Additions of the escort carrier, submarine carrier, and support ships as well as repair ships. Support ships are going to help you refuel your fleet and keep it good to go in combat situations for a longer period of time. Similarly, repair ships will provide minor repairs, again helping to keep your fleet on operations for longer. The submarine carrier is going to allow you to carry a small amount of planes, and the escort carrier is going to be specialized in hunting down those pesky sub-wolf packs harassing your convoys. And that will be it for today. Once again, I'm Hatless Spider, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe for more, and comment down below on the Hearts of Iron channel.